Here we go again. Democrats thought they had the next political victim moment until the full video dropped. They pushed the outrage button, claimed it was about abuse of power, that it was an attack on our democracy. But now the footage tells a different story. And it's not what they wanted you to see. So let's break it down.
Call it what it is, a disgraceful abuse of power. Senator Padilla was handcuffed and dragged out of for daring to ask a question. This wasn't a threat, it's dissent, and they crushed it with force. They're not keeping us safe, they're trying to silence us. We won't back down.
Wow. So Padilla inserts himself and creates a volatile situation, then decides that it's time to get upset when law enforcement tries to do their job and control the scene. And people leap to his defense without even knowing what happened. That's not leadership. I call that emotional manipulation.
Honestly, I didn't realize how exposed I was until it got personal. My number was out there. My old passwords out there. And the crazy part is I thought I was being careful. I don't click weird links. I use very strong passwords, but none of that matters when your information is already floating out there in the internet. And it's not just social media either. It's your email, your bank account, your whole digital life. And this is why I use Aura.com, the sponsor of today's video. They remove your personal info from data broker sites. They scan the dark web 24/7 and alert you the moment your information shows up in a leak or breach. They monitor your credit, your bank accounts, and your social security number. They even bundle in a password manager, antivirus, VPN, and identity theft insurance, all in one app. Since using Aura, I've seen my data pulled off over 20 broker sites. Imagine how much of your info is out there, celebrity. If you've never checked whether your information has been exposed, now is the time. Go to aura.com/kingdomreacts and start your 14-day free trial on us. By the way, that link is in the description. You might be shocked at what's already out there. I was, but at least now I know I'm protected, and I know I'm doing my part in helping you protect yourself.
Now, I want you to know that if it wasn't for X, you probably would never know this. Alex Padilla, the Democrats, and the media, they're straight up lying. He was warned multiple times.
Handcuffed me. And I just couldn't accept the rhetoric anymore. So I had the audacity to try to ask a question. I introduced myself. I'm Senator Alex Padilla, and I have a question. And it took all of maybe a second for multiple agents to forcibly remove me from the room. To pin me on the ground.
But then there's
and
this.
Handcuff me. Secretary, I want to know why you insist
so I want to say thank you to every single person that has been able to do this.
Hands up, hands up.
Also, I want to talk
Senator Alex Padilla. I have questions for the Secretary. Because the fact of the matter is, I have a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your...
Now, he could be anybody. And he was given multiple chances to back up and identify himself, but he didn't. That's not a scandal. That's consequences. Nobody is above basic protocol, especially in an intense situation like that. However, I want y'all to look at this from a closer perspective.
Hands up, hands up. I'm Senator Alex Padilla. I have questions for the Secretary. Because the fact of the matter is, I have a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your hands off.
Many of our ICE agents have been docked for doing their duty.
So Padilla initiated contact. The officers stayed composed and they did their job. The fact that this even became controversy says more about our media culture than the actual event. DC adds to this. Notice how Democrats don't show the longer version that clearly shows Alex Padilla getting violent with federal agents. This man committed a crime that J6s got thrown in prison for years. And again, like I said, he could have been anybody. Anybody could have said that, right? Let's let Andy Biggs speak on this.
Bad choices bring bad consequences. This guy, Alex Padilla, You can see him in the video that you guys are showing. You don't catch the beginning where he's actually moving with alacrity to Kristi Noem, who's speaking at the podium, and he's getting there and he's yelling. And the first thing you can actually hear that's discernible is Secret Service saying, "Sir, back up. Sir, back up." And he refused to back up. In fact, he pushes and jostles. He won't stop. And then the Democrats want to say, "Oh my gosh, he was abused." Well, you know who abused him? He did, because he made a choice to go after Kristi Noem in a quite frankly threatening way. And by the way, why is Secret Service supposed to know who Alex Padilla is? He was basically an appointee senator, Matt, and he's not showing any ID. He's just saying, "Oh, I'm the senator." Well, anybody can say, "I'm just the senator," or "I'm Matt Gaetz," or "I'm Andy Biggs." It doesn't matter. Anybody can say that.
Yeah, that's true. As this post says, poor decisions lead to consequences. Democrats love to play the victim card. It seems that they're now competing for an Oscar. I'll say, man, it's right on point. And if you ignore lawful orders and act out, there's going to be repercussions for that. That's not bias. That's order. Now, we have Stephen A. Smith, who just scorched the earth on Senator Alex Padilla for storming the DHS Secretary Kristi Noem's press conference. Y'all, hear what he has to say.
Here you have this Senator, Alex Padilla. Can Kristi Noem speak? Could you have waited till she finished to ask your questions? To shout your questions? You are a senator, right? You couldn't wait? So that was just you out of control because you were just losing it, huh? You, a United States Senator, couldn't compose yourself and let the head of Homeland Security finish her thoughts before you asked the question. Couldn't do that, huh? Couldn't do it, huh? Here you have...
Stephen A. Smith, man, he's been siding with conservative media a lot lately, because he even saw it. Padilla escalated the situation. Now he want to act shocked that it didn't go his way. A comment that popped up from his account: "No one is above the law. Share if you agree." If the Democrats wanted to find the left-wing Joe Rogan, it's probably Stephen A. Smith. The only problem, he asks questions, he doesn't toe the party line, and he's not afraid to call them out. But somebody said under here what I've been seeing trending: it was all staged. Media was ready for interviews, etc. Was this staged? Here we have the dollar store, or another dollar store version of Obama, Cory Booker, who's trying to soften the blow a little bit, y'all. Listen to this.
And this son of Mexican immigrants who cleaned homes and served food, this man with equal dignity in this body, today was driven violently to his knees, as if made to kneel before the authority of the executive, because he was so-called disrespectful. That should offend the consciousness, not just of the other 99 members of this body, it should offend the conscience of this country. Because if you could make Alex Padilla forcibly kneel before this executive, when does it stop? He's a United States Senator. And if you could force him to kneel to his knees violently, when does it stop? What does it say to other Americans who want to speak up? What does it say to other Americans that want to exercise their constitutional duty? What does it say to other Americans this weekend when they want to peacefully protest? What does it say to other Americans from humble backgrounds who know poverty? That if a United States Senator who stands up to do its job can be made to heel, driven to his knees, violently handcuffed, what does it say? What message does it send? Everybody in this body should see that this is a crossroads. They treated a member of the United States Senate violently, after he identified himself, dragged him out of a room, threw him upon the ground, and put him in handcuffs. Every member of this body should object to that. Why? Because the statement was that he was disrespectful. That is unacceptable. That is offensive. That is un-American. And so why is there silence right now? Why aren't my colleagues saying, I don't care if it's a Republican, a Democrat, or an independent? When you drive a man to his knees,
shut up,
in the United States of America, that is wrong, that is wrong, that is wrong.
Please hurry up. Be over. Please, Clip. Come on.
This is a test. This is a crossroads. This is a day in which the character of this body will be defined.
This is the end of that video, and thank God. Let's be real. Cory's takes feels like a dodge, deflection. It's what he's put up there to do. He wants to soften a moment. But if this were a conservative senator acting like this, he'd be calling it reckless and doing what he's doing now, demanding accountability. We don't need speeches right now. We need honesty, man. You think it's okay to sit there and actually crash a hearing? And you're a senator? Now, let's look at CNN's reaction to this. Alex Padilla was so wrong that even CNN put him on blast.
Being treated quite that way.
We just received a statement from the office of Senator Padilla, and they say that he's currently in Los Angeles exercising his duty to perform congressional oversight of the federal government's operations in Los Angeles across California. It goes on to say that he tried to ask the secretary a question and was forcibly removed by federal agents, forced to the ground and handcuffed. He is not currently detained, and we are working to get additional information. David, over and over, we've heard from voters in different parts of the country talking about how they want to see Democrats confront the administration on some of these issues like immigration. I mean, it gets handsy, but Padilla was trying to make a statement there.
There's no doubt about it. I mean, she was holding a press conference and doing a press statement. He's not a member of the press. It wasn't like a hearing where it was an open forum for senators to ask a question. He clearly showed up to a public event to create a moment and do what you're saying, sort of show his constituents, not just Democrats, but that he's fighting from his perspective. Again, I think the question is, was this the appropriate response of how it got dealt with in that moment and how that plays? To your point, though, I mean, what we're seeing politically is a very divided country over the support and opposition. It's almost evenly divided in a Washington Post poll today over the president's actions and policies here, both over the president putting in the Guard and the Marines there, right? But also we see an evenly divided country over support and opposition to the protests to ICE's action.
You might also, in a situation like this, say, what kind of moment was the senator looking for? But I also would note, and I'm curious just if you can speak to kind of the norms of things. Normally, you have a situation where there's more interaction, even between members of Congress who maybe don't see eye to eye with the White House. They are a little able, at least, to have some kind of interactions. There really are no avenues, I think, for members of Congress to get the ear of someone at the White House if they're not seen as very in line with President Trump.
I mean, I think it depends on the issue and the personnel, right, that find access points to certain things. But
So we're going to pass the part where she tried to obviously will it back to Trump. But suddenly CNN is willing to acknowledge that they saw what we saw in real time. You know, they stay quiet when it's politically useful. Then pivot to context when the backlash is too big to contain. I'm just saying. Y'all pay attention. Now, I want y'all to see Kamala Harris's tweet to this. She says, United States Senator Alex Padilla was representing the millions of Californians who are demanding answers to this administration's actions in Southern California. This is a shameful and stunning abuse of power. The nerve. Kamala rushed out calling it abuse of power. But what was this energy when things got out of hand in 2020? When cities was burned and more chaos was taking place. She bailed out criminals before, but now wants to pretend like she's the voice of law and order, man. Come on, man. Y'all got to see through this BS. Here's the truth. Padilla, he didn't get jumped, okay? That wasn't the case. He got warned, and he made his choice. The full video makes it plain. Now, if we're serious about fairness, that means holding everybody to the same standard, even when it's inconvenient. Not selective outrage, no spinning of facts and a rhetoric. Accountability has to mean something. Or it means nothing at all. Let me know what you think in the comments, though. Was this enforcement doing their job or political theater going wrong? Y'all be safe. Go check on somebody today. You could be saving their life. Peace.